Edward Said's Chapter 3 of Orientalism, titled Orientalism Now, addresses the transformation and persistence of Orientalist discourse in the modern world. It focuses on how the field evolved from the late 19th century onward, adapting to changing historical and political contexts while maintaining its core assumptions and power dynamics. Sayed begins the chapter by distinguishing between two forms of Orientalism, latent and manifest. Latent Orientalism refers to the underlying unchanging assumptions about the Orient, such as its perceived exoticism, despotism, and backwardness. These views, deeply ingrained in Western thought, form the foundation of Orientalist discourse. They persist across time, often unchallenged, and shape how the West perceives the East. Orientalism, on the other hand, represents the explicit expressions of these assumptions in texts, policies, and practices. It evolves over time, reflecting the specific needs and interests of the West. For example, the Orientalist portrayals in 19th century scholarship focused on justifying colonial domination, while modern Orientalist narratives often center around political and economic concerns, such as the Middle East's strategic importance and its depiction as a site of instability. Despite the changes in manifest Orientalism, latent Orientalism remains consistent. Sayed argues that this durability ensures the continued dominance of Western perspectives over the East. The distinction between latent and manifest Orientalism is important to understanding how Orientalism adapts to new contexts without losing its essential character. Sayed also explores the close relationship between Orientalism and imperialism, emphasizing how the two mutually reinforce each other. Orientalism provides the ideological framework that justifies imperial domination, portraying the Orient as inferior and in need of Western intervention. This narrative in turn supports the material and political interests of imperial powers. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as European empires expanded their control over the Orient, Orientalist scholarship flourished. Institutions such as Royal Asiatic Society and the School of Oriental and African Studies played a key role in producing knowledge about the East. This knowledge was not neutral, it was deeply embedded in the power structures of imperialism. For instance, colonial administrators relied on Orientalist texts to govern their territories, while scholars used their research to validate the West's civilizing mission. Sayed highlights how Orientalism's alignment with imperialism also shaped its methodologies and focus areas. Scholars prioritized topics that served colonial interests, such as language studies for administrative purposes or ethnographic research, to classify and control populations. This selective approach to knowledge production reinforced the image of the Orient as a place of difference and subjugation. With the decline of European colonial empires after World War II, Orientalism underwent significant transformations. Sayed describes how the center of Orientalist discourse shifted from Europe to the United States, reflecting the emergence of American hegemony. This shift marked a new phase of Orientalism characterized by its integration into the global geopolitical order. In this modern context, Orientalism continues to serve as a tool of power. The portrayal of the Middle East as a region of perpetual conflict and underdevelopment, for example, legitimizes intervention and control. Sayed examines how Orientalist stereotypes are perpetuated in various domains, including academia, media, and policymaking. These representations often simplify complex realities, reducing the Orient to a monolithic and static entity. Sayed also critiques the rise of area studies programs in American universities, which he views as extensions of Orientalist discourse. These programs often prioritize policy-oriented research over critical inquiry, reinforcing existing power dynamics. By framing it as an object of study rather than a subject with its own agency, area studies perpetuate the epistemological divide between East and West. A significant aspect of modern Orientalism is its presence in popular culture. Syed analyzes how films, novels, and other media forms contribute to the construction of the Orient as an exotic and dangerous place. These cultural representations shape public perceptions, influencing how the West understands and engages with the East. For instance, Hollywood films often depict Arabs and Muslims as villains or victims, reinforcing stereotypes of violence and fanaticism. These portrayals, while fictional, have real world implications, shaping attitudes and policies toward the Middle East. Syed argues that such representations are not accidental. They reflect the broader structures of Orientalist discourse and its role in sustaining Western domination. In the final section of the chapter, Syed examines the contemporary relevance of Orientalism in the context of globalization and post-colonialism. He highlights how Orientalist narratives have adapted to new challenges such as the rise of nationalism and the increased interconnectedness of the world. Despite these challenges, Orientalism remains a powerful framework for understanding and engaging with the East. Its persistence is evident in the language and logic of international relations, where terms like terrorism and Islamic fundamentalism are often used to justify military interventions and economic policies. Syed emphasizes the need to critically examine these narratives and the interests they serve. Chapter 3 of Orientalism provides a comprehensive analysis of the evolution and persistence of Orientalist discourse in the modern era. By distinguishing between latent and manifest Orientalism, Syed highlights the adaptability of this framework to changing historical and political contexts. He also highlights the central role of imperialism in shaping Orientalist knowledge and the enduring influence of Orientalist narratives in popular culture and policy making.